When training an Olympic athlete, you might have an excessively long plan that could span 4 years. Or when training someone who's new to working out, you might just plan their workouts week to week. But you should always have a plan and a basic idea of what you're going to do and be ready to adapt. My workouts that I make for people tend to range between 4 and 16 weeks. I might have a plan going beyond that, but it's just an outline. Because injuries happen, things change, goals change, and you have to be ready to adapt to those things. So if I was going to make a 32-week workout, that would be assuming that nothing's going to change. And that's the further out you get, the harder that is to do, therefore becoming ineffective. You also want to think about the psychology of the athlete or client. Who is this? What are they trying to do? For example, if it's someone that's obsessed with numbers and they like to lift heavy, and you need them to go light for a while just for their own health, how can you keep them interested in the workout? Do you just tell them to suck it up? Do you give them a little taste of something heavy every now and then so they can see some numbers? This is a very important factor. Or if they don't like lifting heavy, how do you convince them to have the courage to do it if it's the best thing for their physique or for their goals? Psychology is one of the most overlooked factors in program design. And that's something that only you, as a trainer and a coach, know for your athletes. When people criticize workouts that they see in a magazine or online, besides some basic factors, I don't see how you can do that. Who is it for? What's the purpose? What did they do 4 weeks before that? You have no idea. So until you spend time with that client or athlete, you don't know their bodies. You don't know how to necessarily design the perfect workout for them. And here's a hint. There is no perfect workout. We don't know this stuff that well. If you take the greatest exercise physiology scientists in the world and look at everything that they know, we don't know this that well. We're all taking our best guesses on how this works. There is no perfect program. There is no all-knowing trainer. There are just some that know more than others. But if you go to every conference there is on this stuff, people are still researching every day, and some of the research just battles other research. So remember, you're not trying to achieve perfection. You're trying to do the best you can do with the science that we have. I've made a previous video on how to use percents, and that might be worth a review to get the basic idea. Going along with psychology is one of the reasons I use percents, is not to push athletes, but to control athletes. Giving someone 70% of their maximum for 5 sets of 5 is a lot better for athletes that tend to push themselves too hard than letting them have a free-for-all 5 sets of 5 as much weight as they can do, because they tend to exhaust themselves. Then you can slowly build up from that 70%. This is something that Mogy is very good at. That's why, for the rest of this talk, we're going to switch over to Mogy. In Mogy, leaving the target weight a fixed number value lets the user use any weight they want for an exercise. If you're going to assign a percent, you choose percent of 1 rep maximum. The client never sees the percent used, they only see the weight that they're supposed to lift for the given reps. This is 5 sets of 5 with 70%, like the example I mentioned in the previous talk. When using percents, it's important to keep some basic ideas in mind. Most people have a reference to these charts in their heads, which is the maximum number of reps that can be performed at a given percent. Keep in mind, these are maximum numbers of reps. So if someone's going to do 5 sets of 5 with 87%, that shouldn't really be possible, because they would be exhausted by their 5th set. They would only get 1 or maybe 2 sets with 85, 87%. So keep some key points in mind that 5 or 6 reps is around 87, 85%, 10 reps around 75%, 3 reps somewhere between 90 and 93%. And of course, keep in mind that these numbers get less accurate as we go down the line. You don't really use percents for bodybuilding purposes. This is more for strength training. So with a percentage like this, the client would be able to perform all 5 sets and never reach technical failure. That is, they could keep their form very good or fight against maybe bad habits they have the entire time, thus getting a good amount of volume with a good amount of resistance, but not to the point where their form collapses. Percentages are typically implemented in very long training cycles, such as this powerlifting program that is 15 weeks long. In the early stages, the percentages are very light, again allowing the athlete to perform reps without sacrificing technique. As the workout goes on, the weights would get much heavier, and of course, as the weights go up, the percents go up. As the percents go up, the repetitions go down, keeping it possible for the athlete to perform the exercise. There are a lot of ways to use percentages, both to push people or hold people back, or even performing things such as the speed of a repetition, such as in west side or conjugate training for powerlifting. And of course, it is used extensively in Olympic weightlifting. Next, we're going to talk about how the exercises relate to each other and how the days relate to each other in a large program such as this one, as well as the all-important repetition.